It was a rainy afternoon, and Sophie wandered through the dense forest near her home. The mist curled around the towering trees, muffling the sound of her footsteps. As she stepped over roots and damp leaves, a sudden chill ran down her spine. Through the fog, she saw it a massive iron gate, rusted and entwined with vines. Beyond it loomed an enormous castle, its stone walls dark and weathered, disappearing into the low-hanging clouds. Curiosity sparked in Sophie's wide brown eyes. "What is this place?" she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the soft patter of rain. Approaching the gate, Sophie hesitated, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. The gate creaked loudly as she pushed it open, sending a flock of birds flying from the nearby trees. The path ahead was lined with cobblestones, slick with rain, leading directly to the castle's towering wooden doors. Taking a deep breath, Sophie clutched her small flashlight tightly. "Well, I can't just turn back now," she murmured, trying to muster her courage. The air around her felt heavy, as if the castle itself were alive, watching her every move. As Sophie climbed the steps to the entrance, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Little did she know, stepping inside would change her life forever. The wooden doors of the castle stood tall and imposing, their surface scarred by time. Sophie hesitated, her hand trembling as she reached for the heavy iron handle. "I've come this far," she whispered, her voice echoing faintly in the eerie stillness. With a sharp tug, the door groaned open, revealing a dimly lit hallway stretching into darkness. Sophie stepped inside, the faint smell of dust and damp stone filling her nostrils. Her footsteps echoed on the cold, stone floor as her flashlight illuminated the grand space before her. The hallway was lined with faded portraits of stern-looking figures, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. A shiver ran down her spine, but her curiosity pushed her forward. The faint sound of something dripping echoed through the hall. Sophie's flashlight beam caught glimpses of cobweb chandeliers hanging high above and cracked wooden beams barely holding up the ceiling. She turned a corner and gasped before her was a grand staircase, its red carpet tattered and worn, leading to the upper floors. As she climbed the stairs, a soft sound stopped her in her tracks. It was faint but unmistakable, a whisper. Sophie froze, her heart pounding. "Hello," she called, her voice barely louder than a whisper itself. The air grew colder as she reached the top of the stairs. A door to her left creaked open slowly, as if inviting her inside. Sophie stepped cautiously through the creaking door, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The room beyond was vast and cold, with high ceilings and long-forgotten furniture draped in white sheets. At the center of the room stood an old wooden table, and on it a book lay open, its pages glowing faintly. She approached the table, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust on the floor. "What is this?" she murmured, her wide brown eyes fixed on the mysterious book. As she reached out, a sudden voice echoed through the room. "Say it," the voice urged, soft yet commanding. Sophie froze, her heart pounding. "Who's there?" she whispered, her flashlight sweeping the corners of the room. The voice didn't answer, but repeated, "Say it." "The book is on the table," with hesitation. Sophie repeated, "The book is on the table." The glow of the book brightened, and the whispering voice softened. "Good. Now say, the chair is next to the table." She glanced at the chair beside the table, her fear slowly giving way to curiosity. "The chair is next to the table," she said. "Well done," the voice replied. "Follow the light, and you will learn." Suddenly, a faint path of glowing footprints appeared, leading out of the room. Sophie hesitated, then took a deep breath and followed them, her determination outweighing her fear. The glowing footprints led Sophie through winding hallways and down a narrow staircase hidden behind a tapestry. The air grew colder, and the faint sound of whispering returned, urging her onward. At the bottom of the staircase, she found a heavy wooden door, its surface carved with intricate patterns. She reached out and pushed the door open, revealing a small chamber illuminated by flickering candlelight. At the center of the room stood a tall pedestal, and on it rested a key glowing faintly gold. "The key will guide you," the whispering voice said. Sophie approached the pedestal cautiously. The room seemed to hold its breath as she reached out and grasped the key. It felt warm in her hand, as if it were alive. Suddenly, the room brightened, and the voice spoke again. "Use the key to unlock the final door," it said, fading into silence. She turned and saw another door on the far wall, its lock glowing softly. Sophie inserted the key and turned it. With a loud click, the door creaked open, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling downward. Taking a deep breath, Sophie descended the staircase, her flashlight illuminating the damp, narrow passage. At the bottom, she entered a grand chamber filled with treasure, a sparkling chest, golden coins, and glittering jewels. Sophie stepped into the treasure room, her eyes widening at the sight before her. The chest in the center of the room glowed faintly, as if beckoning her closer. She approached it cautiously, the whispering voice guiding her. "Open the chest," it urged. Sophie knelt before the chest and lifted its heavy lid. Inside, she found a sparkling golden compass, an intricately carved scroll, and glittering gold coins. She picked up the compass, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. "What is this for?" she whispered, holding it up. "It will guide you on your journey," the voice replied. "But remember, the greatest treasure is the knowledge you've gained." Words like "next to," "under," and "on" will help you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Sophie smiled, realizing how much she had learned during her adventure. She tucked the compass and scroll into her bag and stood, looking around the chamber one last time. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice echoing in the vast space. As Sophie climbed back up the staircase, the air grew warmer, and the faint light of dawn began to seep through the cracks in the walls. She stepped out of the castle, the golden compass in her hand, and turned to look back one last time. The castle, once foreboding, now seemed peaceful and quiet. Sophie felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. She had faced her fears and learned so much along the way. Sitting on a rock near the gate, Sophie looked at the compass in her hand and reflected on the journey. Next to under on these words will help me in so many ways, she said, smiling. Turning to face the audience, Sophie held up the compass and said, "Now it's your turn. Can you use the words we learned today? Write your own sentences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures." With one last glance at the castle, Sophie began her journey home, ready for whatever adventure awaited her next.